Cannabis Common Sense, the show that tells the truth about marijuana and the politics behind its prohibition.
Hello and welcome to another exciting edition of Cannabis Common Sense. We have another show for you here today. It's show number 667. It's January 11th, 2013. And Mr. Casper Leach is standing by. He'll be the joint host. Howdy, Casper.
Happy Friday, and thank you for having me on the big broadcast. It's really nice to be your joint host.
We also have John Cornett, Jan Sue Hurst, ready to play some more fantastic music. Good evening, folks. We will be taking your phone calls, rolling some film clips, but as we are wont to do, we are going to bring on our infamous dancing Cannabis Leaves.
I feel the force.
And here's John Cornett, Jan Sue Hurst. Thank you, folks. That's John Cornett and Jan Sue Hurst with guitar and dulcimer. Yes. Love the sound of that dulcimer. I don't hear many people playing those. Hey, welcome to the show, Casper, and welcome viewers. We are taking your phone calls tonight. If you have a question or comment for us, give us a call at 503-288-4670. 4442.
I have a question, Paul. How is it that our leaders are confused and baffled? Apparently, first of all, the former drug czar has stated that to say that marijuana has medical value is to send the wrong signal to children. And
You know, by law, the drug czar has to lie about marijuana. He can't say anything positive about marijuana. So that's part of his job, is to lie about marijuana. And then, you know, just to be the czar. Why do we need a czar in American politics? Czars are, you know, Russian despotic kings. So
Well, they said they're having a discussion now at the White House as to what to do. It's a serious discussion, and I'm thinking, well, we got like 17 states. They've got it legal in Washington, D.C. The voters have spoken at the ballots, you know. What is there to decide? It's pretty much like figure out how to regulate it, if you ask me.
well, you know, there's a conflict with federal law, and I guess the best thing is they haven't come out and openly attacked the law in Washington and Colorado. You know, in November 6th, Washington and Colorado both voted by 55% to legalize marijuana. And I want to thank the Washington and Colorado voters for doing that, and thank the 47% of Oregon voters who also voted to legalize marijuana. You know, here in Multnomah County, we got 61% of the vote. We won a few other counties, but not enough to pass it.
Well, Paul, and it's not just the folks in Washington. I mean, we've got this guy who's got a legacy just because his last name is Kennedy. He's getting all kinds of news about the stupid stuff he's saying about marijuana.
Well, you know, he had a problem with prescription. He was prescriptions. He was addicted to prescriptions. This week we had Patrick Kennedy come out with another drug warrior and say they were going to oppose marijuana legalization. So that's what you're referring to.
Yeah, and it seems to me like he needs to be a little more sober.
I would say most of our viewers haven't heard anything about that
Oh,
yet,
well, no, and they've got, what do they got? Smart About Marijuana is their little website.
yeah, Sam. Smart About
Smart
marijuana.
About
I haven't
Marijuana.
seen their website, but I have seen
Nothing
a
on
couple
it is
of
very smart. I can
news
certainly tell you that,
blurbs.
especially when they come
I
out
certainly
saying
didn't
it's
look at
bad
it.
for you.
Well, you know, they don't have any real science, so they have to, you know, just use anecdotal evidence. So we'll see. More and more studies are showing how cannabis is beneficial for a variety of different ailments, and increase in longevity. It's an antioxidant, an anti-inflammatory.
There are a couple of websites we would appreciate our audience bringing to the attention of Smart About Marijuana. Is hemp.org, number one. There's all kinds of great information to be found there. And then there's a great archive at timeforhemp.com. And of course, there's a great many other websites out there that will educate these people if they're going to be smart about marijuana. Maybe that'll help them do it, right?
One can hope. One can hope. I think there was a big event that wasn't really much noticed this week. The Wall Street Journal came out with an editorial that marijuana should be legalized and the drug war should be brought to an end. So I like to think the Wall Street Journal is, you know, one of the voices of corporate America, and so the imperial forces have basically declared truce. And
It has, and the mayor of San Diego has thrown down the gavel and stated that they're no longer going to be shutting down the dispensaries, and he wants to work with Students for Safe Access and other groups to help educate the police force and to help educate the public about the jobs that can be stimulated from this ending of the prohibition.
But at the same time, this fellow who ran some dispensaries down in the Los Angeles area, who unfortunately shares the last name with the Pennsylvania coach Sandusky. This other fellow, his name's Aaron Sandusky. He was sentenced to 10 years in federal prison this week for operating 3 dispensaries. So he took it to trial. He was found guilty. They wouldn't allow him to bring up anything about medical marijuana or being in compliance with California's medical marijuana law.
And I think he has an 8-year-old son, so that means he'll be seeing his son by the time his son is just becoming a man, learning to drive, having a family, maybe going off to war.
Well, that's the thing. You know, the real victims of the drug war are those people who are subjected to its penalties. You know, those are the victims. It's a victimless crime. And you know, the drug czar now is trying to back away from the term drug war that Richard Nixon gave us back 40 plus years ago. But, you know, the drug czar is former Seattle Police Chief Gil Kurligowski, and he supervised the Seattle police as they had the largest pro-marijuana demonstrations in history, as they always do the third week of every August at the Seattle Hemp Fest.
Yep.
So one would think that he has a little bit more broad insight into why marijuana should be legalized, but still he operates the Office of National Drug Control Policy for the White House.
But the gentleman who held the same post as he did in Seattle prior to him holding it, Norm Stanford, he is a speaker for law enforcement against prohibition and is a strong advocate for ending prohibition. Yes,
after
absolutely.
Kurligowski, Norm Stanford has been a voice of reason and
we
sanity.
appreciate you, Norm. You do an amazing amount for the movement. Thank you.
You know, I want to make an announcement about a couple of people who had done a benefit for Measure 80 back in the campaign last October. J, Mac, and Dub, they are a rap group, and they had a chicken restaurant on Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard that was attacked and firebombed, and graffiti was spread. It was obviously, according to the Portland police, a hate crime. They have a benefit coming up tomorrow night. It's going to be at the Cannabis Cafe at the 300 block of Southeast 82nd. And so if you're interested in supporting them, there's a benefit to support them. I can tell you they had some of the best chicken around there, and they also serve waffles at their restaurant and had other items. They're hoping to reopen. There's going to be a benefit for them tomorrow night from 6 o'clock to midnight. And if you'd like to support Mac and Dub, you can go down to the Cannabis Cafe. I think it's 332 Southeast 82nd, and go to that benefit and show support for them.
One of the most amazing things about the cannabis community is the way they reach out and love. So I expect that there'll be a huge turnout to help these people pull their lives back together. So it'll be fun.
Certainly hope so. So if you can go out to that, it's open to the general public tomorrow night at 6 to midnight. Also would like to say a word about Roger Christie out in Hawaii. Roger Christie was operating a church and believes in the sacramental use of cannabis. He had no prior criminal arrest, but he was arrested with 2 pounds marijuana. There was a very intense federal investigation of him in Hilo, Hawaii, and we want to urge people to support Roger Christie and realize that there's a fellow who's been held in jail for over 2.5 years. Now, there were no guns involved, no other drugs, no minors, but for less than 2 pounds, he's been held for 2.5 years, saying that he is a danger to the community. He hasn't been able to get bail, and he's going to trial. They're trying to pressure him into accepting a plea bargain offer, but they haven't been able to do it. So maybe he will come to trial in March. That trial, every time I hear about it, it's been postponed another 3 or 4 months. By that point, he'll almost have been held in jail for 3 years and with no bail. And if they can say this gentle man with no criminal record, he was 61 when he first went into jail, and he's 63 now, going on 64. And they can hold him and say he's a danger to the community. And there's a poll that just came out today showing that 57% of people in Hawaii believe marijuana should be legalized.
Is there a way of getting his address, or is there somebody they
Certainly.
can write?
He's being held in federal custody. I know you have his address on your website at Time for Hemp.
Once in a while, but not
yeah,
recently.
You don't have it up on your homepage there?
Uh-uh.
Well, you can find out more at The Last Marijuana Trial. Just enter that into the web if you can, thelastmarijuanatrial.com.
And would it help to write the governor of his state if a lot of people did that?
But it's a federal trial. It's not a state hearing. So the best we can hope for is that the federal government will make some change.
There
Well, I want to
are-
urge our viewers, if you have a question or comment for us tonight, you can call us at 503-288-4442. We are taking your questions about ending marijuana prohibition, restoring industrial hemp, and helping medical marijuana patients. So if you have a question about any of those topics, give us a call at 503-288-4442.
Saw on the news where the governor of New York's all excited about ending prohibition too.
Yeah, he's joined the marijuana majority. Andrew Cuomo, son of former New York Governor Mario Cuomo, and he's been the governor of New York for a couple of years now. So he has changed the marijuana law in New York to make it where they can't arrest people for simple possession. California was one of the states that decriminalized, New York was one of the states that decriminalized marijuana, and what they do is they would, you couldn't be arrested for having less than an ounce of marijuana,
Right.
but you could be arrested for public display.
Right.
So as soon as they pulled it out of your pocket, they'd, once it was out of your
What's
pocket,
this?
then they say, "Oh, you've publicly displayed it
Thank
now,"
you.
and so you can be arrested now.
You should
And
have
so
kept
that's
that in
what
your
they
pocket.
did. So they've stopped that policy in New York. They had 100,000 arrests a year there, pretty much. We do have a caller, though. Welcome to the show, caller. Hello, caller. Welcome to the show. We don't have sound here in the studio. Well, hopefully they'll come through here momentarily.
Well,
Or
I
normal.
have a question. If someone has some kind of hemp oil, is there any way that they can find out how pure it is and how good it is?
Sure, there are several labs out there that are testing cannabis products. So just go to one of those labs.
Okay, cool. And are there any new products on the market that people might go, "Oh my God, that just tastes so good, I gotta have it now"?
There probably are, but I'm not out there researching that, to be honest. So
All right.
there are bound to be some. Have you seen any?
No, but you're always out and about, and people do bring a lot to your attention.
That's true.
So, and what is going on with the clinics there at THCF?
We are seeing patients. So we have doctors who are helping patients get their medical marijuana permits all across the country. Hey, we've got another caller, though. Let's see if we can bring that one in the studio. Welcome to the show, caller.
Yes, hi. My name is Yvette, and I was wondering, I'm a recent medical marijuana holder, and I got a card expired last year, and I was. Are there any places I can go to assist me to renew my marijuana?
She broke up so much that I couldn't.
Yeah, I
understand
couldn't
it.
quite. So you're wondering if there's a place where you can. Do you have a medical marijuana permit now? Is that correct?
I do, but it is expired.
Ah, okay. Well, if you need help renewing your medical marijuana permit, then you should call our office. We'll be happy to help you on that. It's 503-235-4606 here in the Portland area. That's 503-235-4606. If you're outside the Portland area, you can call us toll free at 1-800-723-0188. That's 1-800-723-0188. We help patients all across the United States locate doctors who can help them get a medical marijuana permit. We'd be happy to help you renew that permit.
Well, I really appreciate that. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. You have a good evening.
You too. Bye-bye.
Yeah, it was breaking up just a little bit.
Just a
but,
little bit. Well,
with these cell phones these days, it's just you never know about your connection. We used to have a little bit better sound quality with the old wire telephone communications, but less and less people are using that form of communication. So.
Absolutely.
So if you have another question for us, feel free to call us at 1-800-723-0188.
I have a new app.
Uh-huh.
I have a new app. There's an app. If you go to timeforhemp.com, you can find a news app you can download into your phone. All phones will take it. It's just for free, and then it keeps you up to date with what's going on in the marijuana movement all around the world. Timeforhemp.com.
I know you are updating your Twitter feed and everything all the time, building that base. How many people follow your iTunes or download your iTunes?
About 30,000 people are now downloading the music podcast, and about 40,000 taking down the Time for Hemp Today podcast. And there's about 7,000 people who follow Time for Hemp on Twitter. And we've maxed out on friends on Facebook. So people are hearing the truth about how important it is to end prohibition, the need to utilize this plant for paper, fiber, fuel, and medications, and why it is that prohibition is a luxury item that not only can we no longer afford, but we must end. So the message is getting out to ears all around the world.
All right, we are going to run a little video about cannabis extracts and a lady and her experience with Rick Simpson oil. I believe our musical guests will be able to talk a little bit about Rick Simpson oil as well, but let's run that video.
Hi, my name is Shauna Banda, and I've gone through a pretty serious disease and have recovered. And through that process, I'm coming to you today to try to explain that and get the word out a little better. I had a terminal case of Crohn's disease for 8 years. Towards the end of my disease, I was bedridden and was walking with a cane for help because of the arthritis. And I had watched this great movie back in '07 of Run from the Cure by Rick Simpson. And I'm sitting in Kansas and I watched the movie and I cried because he says you need a whole pound of this medication to make this 2 ounces of oil that you need to cure yourself. And at that point, I watched the movie and was thinking, you know, at this point, I'm smoking this, and it's the only thing that helps with the nausea and the pain. And just knew that I wanted to try this. And, you know, a couple years go by, and I just keep getting worse and worse. And, you know, you get to that point where they say there's nothing more that we can do for you, and you just kind of go home to die. I had blown my lungs, and twice in the same, like within a month. And my husband went out and got online and got me the cheapest vaporizer that you could find. It was a glass dome vaporizer from like in the 70s, and brought it home and we tried it out, and I didn't get any relief from vaporizing, and I put it away. I was very angry with him for getting me such a cheap machine. Reading a book in my bed, and I've pinched off that hose and dreading, like not wanting to even take a drag out of this vaporizer. But you know, I just forgot about it as I'm reading, and my husband walks in and he goes, "Is that the same oil as in the movie?" And I look down and there's this beautiful red film of oil on the glass. And I said, "Well, I don't know." And he went out and got a spatula and we started scraping this bowl. And you know, you only get just a little tiny bit on the spatula. And got some gel caps and started scooping it up into that, and started making it a daily regimen. And I made this machine a little cabinet in my kitchen, and you know, before meals it takes about an hour to make each pill. You know, at this point I've taken out the hose and taped it off and sealed it shut. And I just put the medicine in there and wait, you know, 20 or so minutes, and it fills up with vapor, and then another 20 or so minutes later all the vapor disappears and it's all stuck to the glass. So, you know, before each meal I could pull this thing out of my cabinet from my kitchen and make a pill. So by the time, you know, we're done cooking and eating, it's ready to go. So I did this 3 times a day, and within weeks I was completely changed. Within days I was changed so much that I had to start writing a journal. And this journal, you know, halfway through writing it, I've realized that this is such important information that we have to get this out there. We have to tell the world about this. People want this information out there. We want to be able to help others. And I had to put all this information in a book to help any of you who may be watching this to see that I'm not in my deathbed. I'm working for the first time in 4 years. I've not been able to work. I'm hiking, I'm swimming, I'm able to play with my kids, I'm able to do things. I'm so busy now, it's not even funny, but I love it. It's great. Anything beats raising your kids from a couch and lying there in pain all day. And following Bob Melamede, who's a biophysicist over at the University of Colorado Springs in Colorado, has done so much research on this oil and how it helps on a cellular level. He explains that naturally your body produces these endocannabinoids. I had an autoimmune disease, and with Crohn's disease, it's like having a stomach flu that won't go away, and my body is recognizing that something's wrong, so it's attacking itself, so it's in overdrive, and causing, this autoimmune deficiency. Well, now we've seen that it'll fix that, and if you can even look on YouTube, search, I think it's called Sean with AIDS. This man was going through his recovery as I was just starting my oil, and he's got several YouTube videos. So it's fixing AIDS, it's fixing Crohn's, it's curing cancers right and left. This thing is amazing. There's another video by David Triplett. Do a search on that. Find out for yourself. Don't just take my word for it. Go out there and find out for yourself. I've had 15 surgeries, and I've had every organ taken out of my body that you can have taken out and still survive. This stuff is amazing. It's miraculous. I'll show you. I mean, I have to show everyone. I've got to show you my stomach. Most people are just amazed. And then here that is. So that's the second little scar I've got from, 2 different abdominal surgeries this way. I've got 2 C-section scars down here and multiple little scars all over. So, anyhow, there's your proof. I'm your proof. If that's what you're looking for, is proof. If you want scientific proof and
All right, that was a video, Live Free or Die, that was sent in to us. We want to thank whoever it was that sent it to us. I'm not sure exactly who that was. Hey, we have a caller standing by. Welcome to the show, caller. Hello, caller.
Hello.
Howdy.
Hey, Dr. Paul?
Yeah, I'm not a doctor. I work with doctors, but I'm not a doctor. I've got to make that disclaimer. But go right ahead.
I better turn my TV down there, Paul. I just want to thank you for all the fabulous work you're doing to further the cause, And
well, thanks. I keep trying.
I actually I let my card lapse for like 4 years, and you guys just welcomed me back with open arms down there, and I really appreciate the way you conduct your business down there.
Thanks. We try to be completely professional at THCF Medical Clinics and offer the highest quality service for the medical marijuana patient that's available. So I appreciate that.
I really appreciate your work, bro. Keep up the good work, Paul, and you're looking good over there too.
All right. Well, thanks. You have a good evening.
You too.
Thanks for calling. If you have a question or comment for us tonight, give us a call at 503-288-4442. That's 503-288-4442.
Have you been smoking today?
No, I haven't. Maybe I should have. Maybe that's it.
That might be it.
I haven't.
Oh, okay. I'm medicated.
Okay, well, that explains it.
Yeah.
That explains it. So we are live tonight. It's January 11, 2013. If you have a question or comment about ending marijuana prohibition or restoring industrial hemp or helping medical marijuana patients, you can call us at 503-288-4442. We're going to have another film clip here in just a few minutes with George Cervantes about cultivating cannabis. And so we will be showing that shortly, so stay tuned for that. And some other developments, like I said, the Wall Street Journal came out and said that we should declare truce in the war on drugs. So that's a big step forward. We're hopeful that more things will come. I also know that just this week, at least one Bend, Oregon dispensary received a letter from the United States Attorney here in Oregon telling them to cease operations or face criminal prosecution and property forfeiture. They sent that to the owner of the building as well. So,
but didn't they just recently rule in California that landlords can't be held accountable and landlords can't shut down?
Well, there was one
operations
case around Harborside saying that they couldn't evict Harborside clinics for this dispensary, Harborside in Berkeley and Harborside in San Jose. And so they wanted to evict them for, the forfeiture action from the federal government, but they are fighting that. And in fact, the mayor of Oakland, California, has come in and supported Harborside. And so the courts there have refused to enforce an eviction in California.
There are so many politicians. There's this guy with a different spelling but same pronunciation of Leach. I think it's in Philadelphia, who just entered a bill into his state. And we got politicians in California that are trying to make more positive changes for the patients. We got all around politicians are rolling up their sleeves and realizing that the voters are behind the ending of prohibition. It must be difficult to be a member of a team that must come out and say that it's dark when the sun is out and that when the moon is shining, no one can see it.
Well, the war on drugs has begun to disintegrate with the votes in Washington and Colorado. It really is akin to the falling of the Berlin Wall, which is something I'd said on this show beforehand. Even though we didn't win here in Oregon, the fact that Washington and Colorado did end marijuana prohibition and are moving to regulate the market has changed the whole dynamic. Now countries throughout Latin America and the world are looking to reform their drug laws as well. And so if the United States can legalize it, and we've been the bastion of the war on marijuana, then we can't tell them not to if we're going to do it, obviously.
If President Obama wants to prove that he is the smartest president in the history of America, he needs to end this civil war.
I don't know if he wants to do that. I'm not sure where he's trying to prove he's the smartest president, but it would be a very, the population's come along. So if they're watching the polls, and we know they do watch the polls, they know that they don't have the popular support to increase it. And I don't think that the Obama administration is going to ratchet up the war on drugs and the propaganda machine. At least I hope not.
They don't know.
Regard.
They're having a serious discussion.
That's what they say. And
serious
the fact that they haven't said anything at all so far.
You know what that means? Probably they're having a joint meeting. Well, what do you think we should do?
Well, he could well do that. We know that he was an avid marijuana user in high school and college. So
I can see that now. Michelle's going, hand me the bong. Kids are asleep, so let's discuss this now when we got a minute. Okay.
Well, we know that Clinton smoked, even though he said he didn't inhale.
No,
we know that George Bush definitely was a marijuana user. Now we've got Obama, who admits he was a marijuana user. I don't think they'll find anyone who hasn't tried marijuana that's going to run for president.
Who's that? Who's the guy who's his VP? What's his name? Bloaton?
What about him?
He's probably never smoked a joint.
I don't know.
He should smoke a joint.
You might be right.
He's like,
he was definitely a drug warrior and voted to increase penalties and things.
He's straight out of Looney Tunes. I mean, if you had to come up with an Animaniac character, he's the one that you would want to produce for the drug czar.
Yep. Well, let's go ahead and run that film clip with George Cervantes talking about marijuana cultivation. He's got a how-to set of videos. George Cervantes writes the book Marijuana Horticulture, and considered the Bible for the medical marijuana grower.
Maybe the guys at the DEA will learn something about growing by watching this.
I don't know. I think they know a lot, but we'll find out.
Let's hope so.
Vegetative growth is maintained with 16 hours or more of light. Marijuana will continue vegetative growth for a year or longer, theoretically forever, as long as this photoperiod is maintained. At this point, water and nutrients will be used more quickly, including nitrogen, potassium, phosphorus, calcium, magnesium, sulfur, and other trace elements. This room here is the vegetative room, or the mother room, and the clone room. And the light's on 18 hours a day, and it's off 6 hours a day. And what that does is it makes it possible for plants to continue in a vegetative stage rather than a flowering stage. Pre-flowers grow at about the 4th week of vegetative growth. This is the first sign a plant is preparing for flowering. As soon as this plant designates sex, it will show either the pollen sac with the small nub below it, or 2 hairy white female pistils. But they'll show up in this area here, approximately 3 to 4 nodes from the top of the plant. Here you see a single spike, and on the end of it, the beginning of a little pollen sac. Now, if this were a female plant, you'd see 2 little white hairs come out of there. This plant is just starting to show its sex. These are the first signs of a male plant. Notice the pollen sac that's growing from the inner node, where the leaf starts. Never let these pollen sacs open, because as soon as they do, they disperse pollen and they fertilize female plants. This is a full-fledged male. There's enough pollen right here in this one plant, this one plant, to fertilize all of the plants in this greenhouse. As you can see, there's little small pollen sacs, similar to, well, they kind of remind me of male testicles. The pollen will disperse into the air and land on the ripe, receptive female pistils. When the male pollen lands on one of these female pistils, these white little pistils, it slides down to the base, down inside the seed bracts, and at that point, a seed like this, right here, starts to develop. But at this point, the bud quits growing. All of the energy is put into seed production. And you just get a lot less resin and a lot less THC on plants that are seeded. Plus, half of the weight of the bud is seed. I don't care what the DEA says. You cannot get high on seeds. You can still clean the seeds out and smoke the pot. It's fine. But in general, we want to grow weed rather than seed. Let's grow Sinsemilla dope. That's what we want. Okay, once your plant gets big enough, it's going to outgrow its container. So at that point, you're going to need to transplant it to a larger container. Signs of root-bound plants include slow, sickly growth and branches with excessive distance between limbs. To check for root-bound symptoms, remove the plant from its pot and examine its roots to see if they are deeply matted on the bottom and surrounding sides of the pot. If we just take this plant here, move the container a little bit, touch the container, and then gently pull it off, we'll see that there's roots everywhere around the edge of the container. This plant is pot-bound or root-bound. These roots don't have anywhere to go. Tiny root hairs are very delicate and may easily be destroyed by light, air, or clumsy hands. In order to keep this plant growing quickly and give enough room for the roots, we'll transplant it into this 3-gallon container full of organic mix. Always transplant into the same or similar type of growing medium. Now the first thing I'm going to want to do is to open a little hole in this container. I'll open it a little bit more, and then I'll just take this very carefully and set it down in the container and backfill around it and push the soil into good, strong contact with the root system. Now I'll just give it a good watering, and I'll tell you, this is really important. You give it lots of water. Do not be afraid to overwater this plant, because you can't. Now we'll just wait for this to drain on down, and that's it. That's done. It's that easy. Do a few hundred of these, and you'll get the hang of it. Once transplanted, cannabis requires low levels of nitrogen and potassium and increased quantities of phosphorus. photosynthesis and chlorophyll production are slowed, as are water and nutrient absorption. Transplant late in the day so transplants will have all night to recover. Also, give transplants filtered, less intense light for a couple of days.
Fuck, man, we got a major situation here. Is it, what, the squirrels again? No, it's not squirrels, man. This is much bigger than fucking squirrels. Look at these little black specks. What are they? That fucking thing. What the hell is...
So I know that this has some excerpts from what a famous show up in Canada. They call themselves the Trailer Park Boys.
Oh my!
And so that was a little excerpt there.
Foul mouth and talking about sex.
How could they say that on our show?
Oh my goodness!
We have a phone call standing by though. Welcome to the show, caller. Hello, caller.
Put a shout out for a product that I tried. I found it at Northern Light and Garden, but it's called Atami B''CUZZ because it's a coconut core substrate.
Yeah.
And I mean, the thing to do is go to a soilless mix and use that for your substrate. I mean, there's another product called Canna, and the because is definitely superior to the Canna as well. So,
so we should get the Canna because they're both good.
So you find it works well for as a growing medium?
Absolutely, for a soilless mix, and anyone who goes to that tries it. I mean, they're going to wonder why the hell they haven't been doing that up to that point. It's just incredible.
All right.
So
well,
yeah.
Thanks for your endorsement of their product. I'm glad to hear it's working well for you.
I had a good medium for my plants. She told me that they would grow strong in the future.
All right. So it was a seance with your plants or something. Okay. Cool. We have a studio audience member who has a comment here. Go right ahead, sir.
Hi there, Paul. You may remember, a few of you may remember, a few years ago, I was hit by a car and I was in a wheelchair for a few months. And I just wanted to say, again, thank you to all the community and the medical marijuana community here in Portland. If I hadn't had my card and had a strong community, I would probably still be taking narcotic painkillers. I know the week after surgery, 90% of my pain was caused by the narcotic painkillers and their side effects and the digestive blockage that they caused. And if I hadn't had my medical marijuana there with me in the hospital, I wouldn't have been able to go without those painkillers long enough to stay off of them.
Side effects can be horrific, can't they?
Oh yeah, definitely, and usually not completely known and not completely explained.
Right.
And this year, to celebrate my recovery and I guess my ability to walk again and fully, I made a ride down to Humboldt County, and I had a great experience. It's really, it was amazing to me how many farms there really were down there, and that all of the farms that I worked on paid taxes as organic farms, even though I mean, I think there's kind of a gray area of it's not fully decriminalized as card holding farms. All of them paid taxes as organic farms. And I know in Arcata it was amazing how low the crime rates were, and how but marijuana was something that was on every street corner. And I remember a guy walking through Arcata Plaza one day saying, "Boy, if I had come here with a carton of cigarettes, I could have left with a pound of weed." And I think it's definitely a triumph when marijuana, something that's far safer than tobacco, is more easily accessible. Is something that it's harder for a person to get a cigarette than it is for them to get something that will benefit them.
All right.
And I think I also, you may have heard that Humboldt State University is working on a study, or maybe they published it recently.
Yeah, whole they have a department, an investigative unit looking into cannabis.
And specifically, the one I heard about was showing all of the benefits that the cannabis industry in Northern California has given to the community, and lowering crime rates, and I guess with the tax money that it's generated, the contributions to public well-being.
Yeah. Well, thanks for that
I look
testimonial.
forward to reading more about that.
All right. Thank you. I heard that Jimmy Kimmel had kind of joked about the cannabis program at Humboldt State University, and they invited him to come down and view it. Now he's going to give the commencement speech at Humboldt University this year.
He poked the president right in the face with it when he was up there on stage. That's one thing I like about Kimmel. He doesn't hesitate to say, "Excuse me, but you're wrong."
We have a caller. Welcome to the show, caller. Oh, not that line. We do have a few lines. Okay. If you have a question or comment for us tonight, you can call us 503-288-4442. That's 503-288-4442. We're also streaming live on Ustream.tv. You can watch us anywhere in the world. I know a lot of you do. And if you have a question while you're watching out there, you can type it into the chat box. And through the magic of mobile telephones, we can answer those questions here live on the air. So
well, and we also want to let people know that their input does matter. So if you have something you want to add to the program throughout the course of the week, you can also email Paul through hemp.org.
Yeah, that's one way to reach us.
Yeah.
So like Jorge Cervantes, you know, he's actually from Portland. He lived in Spain for about a decade as well, but he's originally from here in the Portland, Oregon area. Had a little shop up on Foster at about 100th for a number of years, but I know he closed down back in, I think it was 1988, the day that the federal government launched Operation Green Merchant and targeted horticultural stores across America. And so, but he's out there still educating people.
What's happening now up in Washington? The election's over with, and the governor asked the president, "What you going to do?" And the first of the year has come and gone. So,
well, the Washington Liquor Control Board is investigating how to regulate marijuana. They're going to have a series of public town meetings coming up at the end of January and early February. If you're interested in being involved as a producer, you can sign up for that now with the Washington State Liquor Control Board. And they also have an email list. They have 2,500 people who signed on to their email list. We have another caller. Let's see if we can bring this one in and talk to them. Welcome to the show, caller. Hello, caller. Yeah, how are you doing?
Bill Levesque.
Hey, Levesque, how are you?
Happy Friday. How was your New Year's Eve?
Very quiet. When you have a broken hip, you're very quiet.
I see.
I figured you'd be using it for sympathy to get everybody, all the people come around you, bring you cookies and candies and celebrate around you. And
well, yeah, something like that, sure.
I do.
So Dr. Levesque was the first doctor that helped a lot of patients throughout the state of Oregon, and co-hosted this television show for about 3 years. And you broke your hip when? Sometime in September?
First part of October.
First part of October. How is your recuperation coming?
Well, it's very, very slow. My doctor told me that I broke the worst bone at the worst possible place.
And you had an accident in your home and fell, is that right?
I slipped, yeah. But,
and so you broke the femur right at the hip?
Yeah.
So, but you are coming up on the big 9-0. You're going to be 90 years old in a month or so, right?
See, you're talking about his age.
I scared him off.
He gets all upset.
He didn't want to talk about that. Yeah, I don't know.
He doesn't realize that we know he first smoked out with Harry Truman, so that's all right. That's cool.
We have another caller. Welcome to the show, caller. Hello?
Yes.
You still there?
I'm here. And so are all of us. Of course, they don't want us to smoke pot because then we might think they're not so hot.
Yeah.
The government is a bunch of fools. All they do is drag their ass until some crisis or another comes along. We can have anarchy. Anarchy is simply one of many, exactly that, and one archy. We have hierarchies, we have monarchies, we have oligarchies. we can have anarchy, which is simply doing what we like to do and not asking anybody else's permission to do so. Peace.
All right. Thank you for...
Now I know how you feel when I start talking.
No, I think, you know,
just don't know.
I prefer anarchy to monarchy.
Yeah,
I
well,
mean,
that was
if you
good
got to have a
comment.
choice between monarchy and anarchy.
That
and
was good comments, and we appreciate you calling in. But by golly, we thought for sure you were going to go.
They
off
want
the
people
rail.
to think. You know, there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that. In fact,
cool,
that's just
though.
what we need to do. A lot more thinking needs to be
Yeah,
done.
but I understand.
Use our positive mental energy.
Yeah.
So we are just closing down with just a few more minutes. If you have a question or comment, now's the time to call in at 503-288-4442. We might be able to squeeze in one or two more calls. You want to tell our audience once again how they can access your wonderful radio show, which is live 5 days a week.
And I want to remind Eric, my bro, Eric Holder. Hi, I really enjoyed the holidays. You and your buddies there at the DEA, come here a little closer. You can tune in because every Wednesday we have a program just for you. It's with Peter Chris, who's the co-founder of Law Enforcement Against Prohibition. Every Wednesday is Leap Day, and we bring on judges and police chiefs and members of the DEA or former members of the DEA who think what you're doing is silly. So with that said, I want to make sure you tune in. And then, Mr. President, we have every Monday for you, since you just don't know what to do and don't have any real founding to do it with. Every Monday is Medical Monday, Healthy Mondays with Mary Lynn and the people who are patients at a time, Al Byrne. And they have doctors and scientists that come on with research to tell you, the people at the White House, that there really is medical benefits to this. And then for everybody else, we have on Tuesday, we have a big salute to our friends up in Canada on Time for Hemp. And then we also have Paul Stanford coming on, talking about what's going on coast to coast in America. And then on Fridays is a small town salute to the hardworking people all around the world who are trying to end prohibition. You can go to AmericanFreedomRadio.com every Monday through Friday from 10 to 11 a.m. Pacific, 1 to 2 p.m. Pacific Standard. And you can also go to TimeForHemp.com. Paul, thank you for allowing a shameless plug, but I think when I do
That's what we're all about.
we also give
shameless plugs
the
here.
audience a chance to hear the guests, and it's the guests, the joint host, that make the program so spectacular.
Okay, I'm on every Thursday with you from 10 a.m. Pacific time.
Absolutely.
But we do have another phone call. Let's see if we can answer another inquiry. Welcome to the show, caller.
Yeah, hi. I've been on medical marijuana, and I had a card, and I was also taking opiate. And my doctor all of a sudden said that the DEA was coming down, so they would no longer allow me to take the opiate with the marijuana. And I was just wondering if there are any clinics in the Portland area that will allow patients to take opiates along with the marijuana.
Yes, there are. And for more information on that, you can give us a call at 503-235-4606. It's 503-235-4606. You know, we try to make sure you wean off those as much as possible, those addictive narcotics. But your doctor who told you the DEA was cracking down was not telling the truth. He's afraid that the DEA might crack down. But the fact of the matter is he's just spreading misinformation when he tells you that.
Yeah, actually,
I don't want to say he's lying, but he's lying.
Yeah, okay, well, I accept that. This was at OHSU, and my doctor actually found my medical marijuana card. And now saying that they can no longer do that, and this is after several years.
I see. Well, we'll definitely be happy to help you. Just give us a call there at 503-235-4606. If you're outside the Portland area, you can call us toll-free at that number on your screen, 1-800-723-0188.
Thank you very much for the information.
You're very welcome. That's what we're here for.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Well, we are about out of time. I want to bring back on John Cornett and Jansu Hurst. How are you folks now?
Very good. Very
good.
Paul. Thank you very much.
I know you've been working on producing some Rick Simpson oil.
Yes, sir.
And
we are having some amazing results.
The reason we call it Rick Simpson oil is because we do not deviate one iota from the way that Rick Simpson suggests that you can make it.
Yeah.
And that's the whole point, where we're finding a process. And anyone in here who has an Oregon medical marijuana card or any other medical marijuana card can produce Rick Simpson oil and use it as a treatment for cancer, among many other things. It has helped.
And
me
you found it helped you. You had been addicted to
brother, I got completely off.
some narcotics. How long had you taken those painkillers?
I've been taking them since 2002 for about 11 years. And I was on up to 720 milligrams of OxyContin a day. In other words, enough to kill the average person. And I did end up in the emergency room several times, at great cost to insurance and just to the the greater health care community, because I was on all the opioid medication. Now that I've been on cannabis, I don't have that problem anymore. For 6 years, I've been able to cope quite fine without having to deal with the inordinate amounts of opioid medication. Now I'm completely off of it.
And you did that with that Rick Simpson oil?
Yes.
All right, so that's a blessing.
But
yes, sir.
He got off of them almost all the way just with
within 2 weeks.
Cannabis.
Yeah.
Within 2
No,
weeks.
I'm talking about before that with cannabis. Now
Yes, I did. You remember
totally
back in the day,
sure.
I came here
was
with
like
my tail
using the
between my
two
legs. I was
together
I was more dead than alive.
Right.
This THCF actually saved my life. That's
Well, we're
why
glad
I'm here
to help.
Right now.
We are glad to say we've helped well over
Yes, sir.
100,000
Thank you. God bless
people
you.
all across the country.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. I want to thank our viewers. We will be back with a recorded show next week. I have to do some traveling, so I won't be here next week, but we'll have a tape show that you can tune into, and we'll be back live the following week on the 25th. But we're going to go out with the music of John and Jan Sue. Thanks for watching, and help us restore hemp. Good night.
For 10,000 years, she's healed our lives. For 1,000 more, she will brave the fight. She's my Joan of Arc, reaches through the flames, says, come to me, I can heal your pain. She's my Mary Jane. She's my Mary Jane. She's my Mary Jane. She's my Mary Jane. Saved from hell in the fire of the night. Free my soul and clear my sight.